How many of those BIS licenses were approved for companies on either DOD's 1260H list of Chinese military companies or Treasury's Chinese military industrial complex companies list?
Unfortunately, Congressman Barr, I'd have to get you that information, which I'll be happy to.
Does BIS have that information at your fingertips?
When we vote through the interagency, obviously defense can bring, first of all, defense can propose anything they want. And defense can raise the concern over any license based on their list.
Well, here's the concern I have, and you and I have had a good conversation about this. The lack of coordination and the lack of visibility across agencies, big problem, big problem. How important is it that Commerce Entity List designations be coordinated or be cross-referenced by OFAC or Treasury or DOD for purposes of sanctions to prevent American investors from financing entities tied to the CCP or these Chinese military industrial complex firms that are still included in emerging growth index funds, either on U.S. exchanges or foreign stock exchanges, or even through private equity or credit investments?
There's a lot to unpack there. Obviously, investors should be looking at all those lists. As far as coordination between myself, the Treasury Department, and Department of Defense, we actually have pretty excellent coordination going on right now. Certainly with regard to what we're doing.
Well, I'm not sure we do. Sorry, reclaiming my time. I'm not sure we do. Because the OFAC list that's subject to the EOs, they're not aligned, frankly, with your entity list, and certainly not with some of these other lists, the military end user list, the unverified list even. And here's what I would just say editorially, and we're going to be looking at this in the Select Committee on China and in this committee and in the Financial Services Committee on which I serve. Restrictions on capital flows to China should be aligned with our export controls regime and limited to capturing outbound investments that circumvent the spirit of existing export control rules. In other words, why should restrictions or notification regime on outbound American investments in China not also be applicable to what's on an export control list?
And of course, we're working on an outbound investment program, and I know that the Congress is looking at that as well.
Do you have visibility into PRC entity list companies that remain in index funds listed on U.S. or other exchanges?
I do not.
That's what we need. That's what we need. That's what we don't have right now. So we need list coordination, because if we're worried about export controls, if we're worried about companies that are on this entity list, but American investors are unwittingly financing these same companies, that's a problem. That is a gap that we have that we need to fix. And I appreciate your attention to that. Mr. Nathan, and also, believe me, we're going to be talking to Treasury about that problem because you're doing a good job. You've got a good entity list, but we need coordination so that we're not unwittingly financing these technologies, even if we have export controls. DFC, Mr. Nathan, we've talked about this. DFC must prioritize lower middle income economies defined by the World Bank, but there's some higher income economies where Belt and Road is alive and well. Would you like to have the capability of going into some of those higher income countries that are strategic, like Panama, where China is all over the canal?
Thank you for the question, and I appreciate our previous discussions, Congressman. Congress has provided us the opportunity specifically for energy to operate in high-income countries in Europe through the European Energy Security and Diversification Act. If Congress moved forward other legislation, we'd obviously work together to make sure that that was aligned with our objectives and our mission under the BUILD Act. As you and I have discussed previously, some of the World Bank income classifications are a little bit clumsy in terms of the countries where we can operate.
And last question to you. Due to budgetary treatment of DFC equity investment, DFC has not been able to fully unlock this tool. How can we help you with that?
Oh, excellent question, and thank you for asking it. Equity is a very important tool for us to be forward-leaning on risk, to be able to fund infrastructure projects, companies, and other projects that meet the needs of the countries where we're operating and give them the choice that they're looking for as an alternative to the state-directed investment from the PRC. The current budgetary treatment doesn't allow us to fully realize the promise of the tool, and I believe what the intention of the BUILD Act was, We're looking for a way to fix that so that we can have more certainty and a larger amount of equity to deploy to fulfill our mission. An equity fix would be very useful.
Thank you. My time has expired, Mr. Chairman, but I look forward to working with